So what's the problem of KaiSa? The problem of KaiSa is this and this. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's look at her model over here. The problem is that her bodysuit kind of cuts right through her cleavage, right there. And the problem with that is that she's supposed to be a monster. Like, I think the story is that she's a girl who fell into the realm of the void, and the void is like slowly corrupting her, turning her into a monster. And anyone who sees her looks at her as if she's a monster, and they all run away. But I mean, look at her in-game splash art. She's a very relatively young, beautiful girl. The bodysuit kind of it's a skin-tight bodysuit that goes right through her cleavage, and she has long black hair, and like no marking or scarring on her face whatsoever. That is not a monster girl. So I tried to redesign it. So I redesigned her, and what I tried to emphasize when I'm doing this redesign is okay, you want to sell her as a pretty young girl because that sells skins, fine. But you also want to actually tell the story of her being somewhat of a monster. So what I try to do is I try to show it where the corruption is starting from one direction and moving up towards the other. So in this case, starting from the right leg and moving up towards the left shoulder. That's why the left shoulder is relatively unmarred compared to like the right side of her body, which is very much more corrupted. It just shows like the progression. I feel like using this level of storytelling, you can still maintain that she's a pretty person while also being a monster. So what you do is you keep the right side more monstrous, and that also benefits because you have asymmetry. Asymmetry normally is seen as bad. So a pretty person is symmetrical. So then a monstrous person is asymmetrical. So that's what I try to do. So the right arm is calcified, bony, like it's gone really far. On the right hip, it's supposed to be like crab lungs. If you've ever eaten crab, or you've tried to eat crab and have no idea what you're doing, you know what the feeling of the lungs are. On the left side, you've got just a regular glove, which is what they're actually seen in the regular splash art. But then I added these tentacles, and the tentacles are like slowly reforming her body. And so I was trying to tell that narrative of she's undergoing this transformation. It's like currently happening. So I think this design has some balance of it being monstrous, but also can maintain that she's a pretty thing to sell skins. I don't like the design of Viego. Many things. I think the obvious one is that he's just a basic pretty boy. But on top of that, he's a pretty boy with granny hair. Like, it's thin, it's wispy, and it's white. And it looks like what I imagine a typical old white lady would look like. Then on top of that, he wears a leather jacket and leather pants. Like, it's obviously leather, dark black leather. But why? Like, in the story, he's supposed to be the spoiled king. Like, yeah, in the story, he's supposed to be a king, like the spoiled brat who lost his wife, which he treats as a pet. Some shit like that. And then he goes on a murderous rampage, destroying everyone and everything, trying to get her back. Okay, fine, that could be a really interesting story. But no part of that story is telling me why he's in leathers, like tight leathers. It looks weirdly modern and definitely completely out of place. And another thing that really annoys me is that in his lore, it's supposed to be like this dark mist is emanating from his heart because he lost his heart to his lover, and therefore the world must end. But I mean, it's this small triangle in the middle of his heart which nobody saw, and I didn't even know that until I did research for this video. So I think we should try and change that. In my design, I gave him a different body shape. So this one is less the skinny boy, but I'm trying to make it more bulkier. Because you can have different forms of attractiveness. It's not just skinny. It's bulk too. And as a king, you would expect him to be more bulky than skinny. I guess in the lore, he is like broken-hearted, so maybe that would contribute to him being a bit skinnier. But I think in the way they did it in the splash art is that he has this triangle body shape, but I think they over-accentuated the triangleness. So it just looks inhuman, but not like a story-wise, but just looks wrong to me. So I try to give it... I'm not really good at drawing men. Yeah. Anyway, for the hair and stuff, this old granny hair, I gave it that slick back stuff. So I was looking at references, and normally when I think of kings, I think of Loki, I think of Thor, because they're modern incarnations of like ancient kings. And Loki kind of fits the story perfectly. He's the second brother, he's evil, he's also a bit skinnier, and all that jazz. So I try to follow the hair where it goes slick back, copied Thor's beard because I'm not very original when it comes to men. And I think I'm not even really good at art, but I think this will look better than what Viego's granny hair currently is. Then, okay, so the thing is supposed to be coming from his heart. This is not where your heart is. Your heart is offset to the left. So I offset the heart to the left because it makes sense. And then to like really say that this is a heart thing, like he's broken hearted, why not just show the heart? You've this gap there that's looking into him, so why not just show where the heart is? Another thing is, I did not like the leathers, so what I did was armor on the right side, armor on the left side, armor on the leg, because this is a time of, I don't know, but I'm assuming the aesthetic is more, we're going to fight a war, than I'm going to join a rock band. And obviously I made it asymmetrical because I've said asymmetry is normally seen as evil. Katarina is an old champ, and I don't actually think she's that bad off. I don't think you need to change too much about it. Like, when she was first designed, she was supposed to be like a sex icon. That's why her boobs are right out there, tight leather pants, and she's a redhead. And I think that's fine. It's a product of that time. I still think it looks pretty good. But the problem with Kata is that she's wearing silver swords, okay, so that's grey. And then she's wearing black leather pants, a black bra, and a black jacket. So none of that pops out. So then what would pop out would be her hair. Her hair is red, but in-game character model, because a bit older, is not exactly a vibrant red. And looking at design after committing to this project, I realized she's wearing steel plates on her shoulders and arms and legs as a form of armor. Granted, I am not the guy who knows how to fight. Like, I've never actually used swords to fight, but I'm pretty sure that you do not want spikes on your feet, because as a swordsman, you're not going to go kicking somebody and trying to impale them with your feet. And it is something for things to just get caught on. If you're chasing somebody, it might just get caught onto whatever you're vaulting over and you're stuck. Which, it's a product of its time, but I don't think it should be there. So this is my redesign of Katarina. I've really just tried to keep everything the same. So it's the same boobs out, just wearing a bra. What I did is I changed the pants. Instead of tight leather pants, because leather is absolutely ridiculous. Imagine, like, it's wet and you're trying to run, the leather gets in the way, you get sweaty, you can't put it off, you can't put it on, you wash it, it starts to shrink. Oh, there's just so many problems with leather. So just give her, like, active camo pants. My cousin said that the modern aesthetic now is loose pants, long, and a tight top, with normally showing your midriff, and that's fine. I appreciate the aesthetic. So give her that, looser pants. And then, because it's like camo pants, you can have a lot of pockets, a lot of straps, hide all your swords, hide your bounty material, and all that jazz. Another thing I did was I gave her a jacket, because in the original design, it's this really tight, long-sleeved, open thing in the front, which is held together by a clip. And I'm gonna be honest, that doesn't really serve much purpose. Like, if I wanted to stay warm, this is not enough material to cover my chest, so I will be cold. Then it's another extra layer, so why not just wear a full layer to cover your arms? I'm thinking too deep into this. I'm a guy, obviously, but just give her a jacket so she gets cold, she can zip up. It would make sense, and it still looks fine. It's within the same realms. Another thing I did is red daggers. Silver daggers blend in with her character if you made them bright red, like shining bright red. I think it will work. It might make no sense at all within the game, but it matches her hair and it really pops. And finally, last but not least, I removed all that steel. It is heavy, it's inflexible, there is no reason to have spikes. If you want some form of protection, just give like leather shoulder plates, leather knee guards, leather elbow guards, because why not? Leather is cheap, it's durable, it's flexible, and it's quite tough for its weight, so leather. But not leather pants. Hot take, I don't think ChoGath needs a rework. I think ChoGath is fine just the way he is. He's the first champion I picked up. and he is old, so he might need a visual update to make his animation and rigging nicer. But I don't think he needs an actual change. If we were to give him a rework, this is what I would do. The problem, not really a problem with ChoGath, is that he's a bit basic in terms of a concept. He joined this world and now he wants to eat. And I think that's fine. It's a product of its time. But if we had to give him a rework, I would do something like this. So in this story, he is a scout. So he takes this small little form of like a little boy in a hood, a little girl in a hood, doesn't really matter. And he's small. But then when he uses ultimate, he can jump out, and you get that dash because I think a problem with ChoGath is that he lacks a bit of mobility. So he jumps out and does the feasting, and then he becomes the regular ChoGath that we're used to, because I really don't think he needs a rework. I think this would add layers to his story, because now he's a scout. He's looking at our world, trying to see what the void can do with it. But then when push comes to shove, he can become the big monster, which he really is. But I think also in terms of gameplay, it make him a bit more interesting, because he really lacks mobility, he needs a dash. This will also give him like the transform function, which will obviously just make him a more interesting character. I like ChoGath. I don't really feel like he needs a rework, but really push come to shove, this is what I would do. Make him a big jumpy monster. And the best part about this design is that ChoGath scales with size, so by the end of the game, he's like bigger than the dragon. But I still want to keep that concept where he can hide in a little hoodie. And it would make no sense in terms of like regular physics. But in this story, he's from the void, and the void is not the world. Therefore, regular physics don't apply. So it's another layer to the story that he is not from our world. Anyway, thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Like, comment, and subscribe. Goodbye.